What's up guys, this is Scher talking, welcome back to my channel. On today's video I want to talk about the new armor metal exchange, something that was added in a recent update and allows you to purchase 8 different pieces of equipment by use of the armor metals that you can see here. I have 309,000 and they drop by very few amounts. It takes a lot of time to get your first piece of equipment. Some people already have 2 pieces of equipment, I only have 1. And I want to guide you into choosing the best ones in the best order, since it will take you months to get everything. Okay, but in order to say which piece of equipment is better, we need to understand character resistance. All characters in the game has their base resistance to elements, and the game consider element even physical types. Just click on the tab resistance and you'll be able to see. Here I'm showing Albert, a first generation character, and they have 2 strengthness and 1 weakness. For example, 65 points of slash resistance, but 25 points of pierce resistance, and 45 negative points for blunt resistance. That means that he's weak to blunt, of course, and he has neutral resistance for all the elemental magical types. Well, when you have at least minus 35 resistance to an element, when you get hit by the enemy, it will show on the screen weak, meaning that you are in a danger zone. The enemy is going to do more damage and your character may easily die. If you have at least 35 points of resistance for an element, the game will then say resist when you get hit. That is extremely important into understanding why each piece may be better for your character. But something changed recently as well. Albert has 65 points of resistance, right? Now, let's see for news. Because he uses a different weapon, in his case he uses a spear, he actually has a different strengthness, and in this case, it is pierce. But new generation characters will have higher resistance for their base. It was 65 and it's now 90 for all releases. And the weakness stayed the same, with 45 in the case of Fornews, it's slash, contrary to the blunt weaknesses of Albert. Sometimes we have to think about this when equipping our characters. Sometimes if the enemy uses too many blunt attacks, it's hard to use characters that are weak to blunt. Who are they? Well, sword users, great sword users, and axe users. But besides that point, some characters may have special resistances. For example, Tambora is a character that, besides having the normal type of resistance like Fornews, he still has extra resistance to heat, but super weak resistance to cold. This is based on the lore of the game, because the salamanders are weak to cold attacks. But this is usually very positive. Like Goddess, she still has all the normal resistances, and has 10 extra points for all elements, without any penalty like Tambora had. And there are characters like Beauty that also may have just 1 slot of extra resistance to something. So you should consider the elemental resistance of your character when equipping then, because we want to have 35 points of resistance on a character, so that it decreases damage and trigger the resist effect. And why is that so? Because characters can trigger special effects when they resist. And it's good to talk about Katarina because, well, her S's Word style has a passive called Intrinsic S's Word. Intrinsic is a type of passive that appears in many different characters. And it says, when attacked by an attack that will cause resist, reduces damage taken by 40%. Usually a character reduces damage taken by around 30% now, but they will have 40% because you need to equip them versus the elements the enemy is going to use against you. And if the screen triggers resist, it means that you will decrease the damage by 40%. And alongside a 37% chance to evade that set attack because of the third part of the passive. Okay, that is nice if the enemy doesn't have too many elemental attacks, because those are the hardest ones to equip against. But then, we'll have to talk about the latest Katarina, because besides that equipment being important, it becomes even more important because she has this resist offense passive that is applied to the whole squad. that when they resist the damage of the enemy, they will self-buff STR, Dexterity, and Intelligence, Attack Boost, and BP. Many other characters who have passives like this as well that may sometimes apply to the whole squad. So, if your characters are resisting, they can get even more benefits. Okay, and that's the explanation. If you have at least 35 points of resistance, you are going to trigger resist, and that's why equipments are so important. But now back to the armor metal exchange. Here we have 8 different pieces of equipment, and each one represents one equipment type from Romancing Saga. Okay, so I made a picture that will explain this all better, that lists all the resistance for all elemental types and the sum of all resistances as well. Why is the Vermilion Dress the best one? Well, you can see that it does not add that much slash, blunt, and pierce resistance, but it adds 52 points of heat, cold, and lightning. This already gives you resist for 3 elemental types, and it is always easier to find physical types and fix them via your current equipment. And a boss usually uses either sun or shadow attacks, hardly if ever both. So you just need to find another piece of equipment to fix your sun or shadow resistance and a little bit of your physical type. Remember that your character has 1 weaknesses to physical. It will be easy to fix, like for example, you can equip a helmet that gives shadow or a helmet that gives sun, and they already exist in the game. That's why the Vermilion Dress is the best one, and I got it, as you can see, as my first option. Now, the second one will be the Rhythmic Sandals, and why is that? Because those sandals are actually very good, those here. They give you pierce resistance, then lightning, sun, and shadow. We don't have any boot that give you sun resistance. We have some that will give you shadow resistance. We even have one that can give you lightning resistance, but none can give you sun resistance. So some combination of equipments are impossible without the Rhythmic Sandals. And that's why I make it so good. Even though this is a second slot gear that gives less resistance overall when compared to the full gears, it is very good to fix many equipment problems. So I believe that is the second best one. Then the third one will be the Azure Knight outfit. This is very good as well because it gives you 32 points of resistance to all 3 physical types, while still giving you 40 points of sun and shadow. I said that it is not hard to find equipments for either sun or shadow. Okay, but then this is also the best equipment to be used together with the Vermilion Dress. Your character can equip the Vermilion Dress and then the Azure Knight outfit to reach extremely high resistance. If you want to use a character that is a tank and versus a fight where the enemy uses all types of elements, it is the best set to use. No questions asked. It gives you more of the physical type's resistance while also still giving you full resistance versus all elemental magical attacks. Then the fourth better one, in my opinion, will be the Radar Gadget Gloves. And why so? Because this one has actually an interesting type of resistance. It gives you slash, as you can see, and then gives you heat, cold, and sun. There are not that many gloves that gives more than 2 elemental resistances, while we have lots of helmets that can give you multi-elemental resistances too. Number 5 will be the Dragoon Helmet. This one gives you blunt resistance, but also 3 elemental ones: heat, cold, and lightning. It is the less impactful of the gears, but it still has 3 elemental types that will fix some of your equipment sets. Then the number 6 will be the Bomb Suit, here on the top, because the Bomb Suit gives you 60 points of slash and blunt resistance alongside 36 points of heat and cold resistance. Very common elements, and it's the heaviest armor versus physical type. Then I believe the number 7 will be the Jade Mail. The Jade Mail is good as well because it has lightning and shadow resistances. Some spells in this game have this combination of Shadow and Lightning, and you will find this in some bosses. So it also helps with some different sets. With the last one being the Rigid Steel Armor. I think that this is the last impactful one, because it just gives you Cold and Sun, and Cold and Sun alone are easier to find, and nothing special about this. Okay, so these are my recommendations. If you don't agree, say here on the comment section. And now that we know all about this, I want to talk about how to fast farm all of these armor pieces. In the answer is actually very simple. Hardy is the best one to grind those equipments. Hardy can grind for you for free if you go to the Scenic Records and into his own event here. That is called the Seeker of Umami. And he has around 20% chance to drop in this boss fight, and he will kill the boss for you. I already have a video on this topic, and it farms in 6 seconds. Sometimes more if your characters trigger some special effects. But there are plenty of other stages with just one enemy in one wave, and if you can one-shot with just one of your characters, that will also be a very fast way to grind for armor pieces. So that closes the video for today. Thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe if you haven't, and if you want to support the channel, click here on the description, and I hope to see you soon on the next video or live stream. Goodbye.